And it is called Labor Day because it's a public holiday that celebrates workers and the contributions they make to society. So it's a day to recognize the importance of workers' rights, fair wages, safe working conditions, and the labor movement, which was historically fought by the working class to achieve better conditions. Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to British English Pod with me, Lewis. And, well, it's another sunny day, another beautiful, glorious sunny day. But what about where you are? What's the weather like where you are? And remind me, tell me again, where are you from and where do you live at the moment? You know, I'm from Leeds, which is in the north of England, but I live at the moment in Brussels and I'm recording this on the 29th of April. And yeah, it's another beautiful day. So I'm delighted. I'm over the moon. I'm absolutely buzzing. And after I record this podcast, well, I'm going to go out for a little walk, just a little stroll around my neighborhood before I keep teaching my other classes. So, yeah, that's a little introduction. And today, I want to get straight into it. So, we're going to start with this week's topic. And this week's topic is all related to collocations. But you might ask, you might be wondering, Lewis, what on earth is a collocation? And it's a good question. To simplify it, a collocation is, well, a collection of words, usually maybe one verb and one noun, or one adjective and one noun, or a verb and a preposition, that are like best friends. So they always hang out together. They always spend time together. So it's kind of like their expressions, but not quite. It's just words that naturally are associated, that they will go together a lot of the time. And there are many examples of collocations with the verb to have, with the verb to make, with the verb to take, with the verb to catch. The list goes on and on. But today, we're going to start by focusing on a bit of a recap of make and do collocations. After that, we're going to have a look at some prepositions with verbs and prepositions with adjectives. And once we've covered that, then we will read out, or at least I will read out a dialogue which includes some more advanced business collocations. And I'm going to use them in conversation. Throughout the podcast, I'm going to be answering many questions just so you have this comprehensible input so you can keep hearing my speech and trying to, adjust to it and even shadow it at times. Because I'm sure you are aware that shadowing is one of the best ways to improve your English accent and pronunciation. That being said, shall we get started? Shall we kick off? I think we should. And I'm going to teach you a nice adjective before I do get started. Because my lips are a little bit chapped at the moment. I have chapped lips. And this is because last weekend, well, I was sunbathing a little bit. You can tell that maybe I've got a little bit more colour. I wouldn't say I'm tanned, but after being in the sun at the weekend, my lips burnt. So then they were very sensitive and they were hurting me a little bit. And now they've dried up. So my lips are chapped. And if you have chapped lips, well, some people will use a chapstick. And a chapstick is one of these things that you can buy from the supermarket or a pharmacy to try to moisturize your lips. One of the most famous brands is Vaseline. So people put Vaseline on their lips when they're dry, when they are chapped. Hopefully, you've already learned a new word in that case. Now, collocations, let's start. Make or do. all you've got to do is choose. Is it make or is it do? And, of course, you need to conjugate it. So I'll read it once with a beep, and then I'll read it a second time with the answer. Number 1. The hurricane, beep, so much damage to the infrastructure. The hurricane did so much damage to the infrastructure. So do damage. The same applies with do harm. Now, number 2, you have to be really resilient to beep business in this country. You have to be really resilient to do business in this country. So do business, always, which is sometimes a little bit confusing because when we speak about money, we use make. Make money, make a profit, make a loss, make an investment, make a payment, make a fortune. There are loads of examples. Now, number 3, I'm so sorry. I've beep a terrible mistake. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry. I've made a terrible mistake. Please forgive me. So make a mistake, make an error. Or we could use one of these phrasal verbs, which means the same thing by saying, I messed up, I cocked up, I screwed up, or I fucked up. Now, number 4, well done, team. You're beep so much progress. Well done, team. You're making so much progress. So make progress, but we can also just use it as a verb. You're progressing so much. Good. Number 5. Don't worry about the result. The important thing is you beep your best. Don't worry about the result. The important thing is you do your best. Do your best. Do your worst. In other words, try your hardest. Now, number 6. The latest change, such a huge difference. The latest change made such a huge difference. So we make a difference, and we also make a change. Awesome. Number 7. It's a relief that we beep our research before buying that property. It's a relief that we did our research before buying that property. So do research, do investigation, or a phrasal verb, which is look into. It's a relief we looked into it before buying that property. Now, number 8. Everybody please calm down. Let's not beep a scene here. Everybody please calm down. Let's not make a scene here. And if you make a scene, it means you draw attention to yourself, usually for the wrong reasons, because you're maybe being loud, you're being a bit crazy, you're having an argument. It could be for many different reasons. But yeah, it's better usually to avoid making a scene. Wonderful. Now, as you might be able to see now, here we have a list of conversation questions. But I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to choose the ones that I consider to be more interesting, and, well, I'm going to answer them. So, the first question I'm going to answer is number 2, and it is, do you think it's difficult to do business in foreign countries? Do you think it's difficult to do business in foreign countries? Well, I think it depends. I think for many administrative, legal, paperwork reasons, or even tax reasons, it can be difficult to do business in foreign countries because it can involve lots of forms that you might need to fill out and all of this red tape. You have to do a lot of red tape, which is like unnecessary administration. So that's one obstacle that we have to overcome if you want to do business in foreign countries. For example, whenever I teach a company or I teach an individual who lives in a different country, but the company might pay for their classes, I often need to fill out a form. I need to maybe give them all of my details. So it involves a little bit more effort and a little bit more admin. So I don't think it's that difficult to do business in foreign countries, but it adds, more red tape, more admin, more paperwork, all of these things that, I can't stand doing. But it is what it is. It's part and parcel of doing business in general. And something that some of my students have been mentioning when I've been asking them this question in my group classes this week is, well, you have to be aware of some cultural norms, some traditions, some customs, some behaviors, because it's not always the same doing business with someone from Colombia and doing business with someone from Vietnam, because these cultures are so different. They are polar opposites. Just like it's very different to do business with British people compared to how it is doing business with Japanese people, because our cultures are so different. So, of course, the way you handle yourself at work and while doing business is completely different. So, this is something that we all need to be aware of and, above all, respectful of. We should respect other people's cultures in order to, well, have a professional partnership with them. So that's my response to the first make or do question. How about another one? Let's go with, in what areas of your life are you currently making progress? In what areas of your life are you currently making progress? Well, I don't like to stand still, and I like to always have objectives. I like to have aims that I can strive to achieve. And recently, I've started getting back into running because of the good weather, so I feel like I'm making a little bit of progress in terms of my fitness. I was just doing some press ups before the class as well, and I feel like it's a little bit easier than it was a couple of months ago. So perhaps I'm losing a little bit of weight and I'm making progress in that aspect. And another thing I believe I'm making progress in is developing my system of students and collaborators. So I'm always very busy, as you know. I don't stop making content, editing content, teaching classes, but I think I'm making progress at, well, enhancing my reputation and my reach in order to make my company more sustainable in the long term. So that is something I'm making progress with. And of course, in my love life, because, as you know, I'm getting married this year. And I've made progress organizing the wedding in the last couple of weeks. So that is, phew, a relief and definitely a step in the right direction. Now, another question. Let's go with, do you usually do research before making big decisions? Do you usually do research before making big decisions? I'd say so, yeah. I think I do research before making a big decision. And research nowadays often involves looking something up on Google or ChatGPT or something similar to find out more information about different things. And based on that, I will always try to fact check. So I'll make sure that the information that I found is trustworthy and reliable. I know some people will make like a pros and cons list. So they will do their research and then they'll write down all of the advantages of making one decision and the disadvantages of making another decision. And I think this is a good thing to do and a good thought process to go through. Because that way you can go into making the decision with as much information and knowledge as possible, which should help you to make the best possible decision. So yeah, I'm not a very impulsive person. I don't act on impulses. So if I want to do something, usually I take a breather, I will do my research, then maybe I'll sleep on it as well before reassessing the next day. So yeah, I do my research before making big decisions. Now, another one. Have you ever seen someone make a scene in public? Have you ever seen someone make a scene in public? Well, I definitely have. 1,000%. Because it's very common, maybe on trains or at bus stations, bus stops, public transport in general. You always tend to see unusual people, weird people, strange people. They usually hang around these areas at train stations, bus stations, and so on. And sometimes you'll see people screaming and shouting, fighting, arguing, maybe even, I don't know, playing a musical instrument, but in a very strange way. So I often see people making a scene in public, in these kind of public places. And to be honest, it doesn't grab my attention. When people do this, I try to escape. And I try to think, oh, people are crazy. I need to get out of here. So I'll keep walking and I'll keep moving forward. So right now, I can't think of a specific time when I saw someone make a scene in public, but for sure, there have been many. And I think usually what I do when I see people making a scene is I just keep walking. I keep going. I don't really pay much attention to it. And by the way, pay attention, that's another one of these collocations. Because in some languages, people will say put attention, but in English, you pay attention. Okay, let's keep going. And now let's do a bit of a recap of some common prepositions which go along with different verbs. So, which preposition is missing? Which one is missing? So, the first verb is depend. What's the preposition that goes with depend? Of course, it depends on. Next, we have rely, which is kind of a synonym. So depend on and also rely on. And another synonym is count, and that's also count on. So depend on, rely on, and count on. How about deal? Easy, right? You deal with a situation. Next, we have suffer. It is suffer from. I suffer from hay fever. Likewise, the opposite of suffer is benefit. So, you benefit from something as well. I benefited from all the hard work I did. After that, we have focus, and it is focus on. And in the same way, we also say concentrate on. So focus on, concentrate on. After that, it is cope. And you cope with. And a student asked me when I was teaching this yesterday, Lewis, what does cope with mean? And I basically said it's the same as deal with, or at least it's similar, because you can deal with many different situations, like manage it. Whereas if you cope with something, it's saying that you manage something, but with a little bit of suffering. Maybe your neighbor makes a lot of noise, and I know I use this example quite a lot. And it's difficult to tolerate. It's difficult to put up with your neighbor. You have to cope with it sometimes. So you have to deal with it whilst showing that it's maybe a suffering situation. It's a negative situation. But hey, on to the last one. It is insist on. I insist on doing this. And that's a little reminder for everybody that after you have a preposition, don't forget it's ing. So insist on doing. It depends on going there or doing something else. Now, how about we continue, but with some conversation questions? So the first conversation question that I'm going to ask myself is, well, let's go with, number one, which is any plans for the weekend and what does it depend on? So, my plans for the weekend are, well, quite basic, quite simple. But I'm excited about this weekend because it is a long weekend. The day when this podcast is released, it will be May Day. It will be Labor Day. And Labor Day is International Workers' Day. So that means that I have the day off and my fiance has the day off as well. So my plans for this weekend are on Friday to maybe go out for a walk in the woods and walk to a different town or a different city. So when I say go for a walk, I mean go for a very long walk, setting off early in the morning, grabbing a coffee, and then going almost hiking through the woods for a few hours until we reach a nice village or town where we could go and have some beers, sit in the sun, grab a bite to eat, and then just chill for the rest of the afternoon before surely getting a taxi, a bus, or an Uber back home and back to the city centre. So as a result, this plan depends on the weather. It depends on whether it's going to be sunny and warm or not. Because the last I checked, it was going to be like 22 degrees and sunny. But the weather can turn quite quickly here in Belgium. So hopefully everything stays the same. So we'll be able to go for our hike and drinks out in the sun because it depends on the weather. And the rest of the weekend, I don't know. I will play it by ear. I'll go with the flow. I'll see what happens. And just going back to Labor Day or International Workers' Day, let me explain what it is all about. Because I believe that it is a bank holiday, a public holiday, all around the world, at least practically all around the world. And it is called Labor Day because it's a public holiday that celebrates workers and the contributions they make to society. So it's a day to recognize the importance of workers' rights, fair wages, safe working conditions, and the labor movement, which was historically fought by the working class to achieve better conditions. And it exists because, well, Labor Day comes from the late 19th century when workers in factories and mines often had very long working hours of working 10 to 16 hours a day. Oh, horrible. They had very low pay and it was very unsafe. There were lots of accidents that did a lot of damage in these factories and mills and mines at the end of the 19th century. So, workers and unions organized protests and strikes to demand better rights. And over time, governments introduced laws and created a holiday to honor those struggles. So nowadays, people don't really celebrate it in any particular way, but it is a day off and it is a public holiday that I think we should remember and be grateful that nowadays we have, in general, very good workers' rights and people have health and safety conditions at their workplace. So we should take a moment to maybe think of what our ancestors gave in order in order for us to have better working conditions at the moment. And this is coming from me speaking from my house as I work at the moment. So yeah, happy Labor Day and happy International Workers' Day to anyone listening to this when it is released on May the 1st, or if you're listening a little bit later as well. So that was me just going off on a tangent, deviating from the plan a little bit. But let's get back to it. And I'm going to answer another couple of questions. Let me answer number 4, which is, what do you suffer from, if anything? As I mentioned, I suffer from hay fever. So at this time of year, I'm starting to sneeze a little bit more. My throat gets a bit itchy and I get a little bit of a runny nose. So I need to blow my nose. And other than that, sometimes I suffer from social anxiety, which, you know, um, for someone who records so many videos and appears all over social media, it might sound a little bit ironic. But when I go and meet up with lots of people in a very busy place with many strangers, then I get a bit anxious at the beginning. And I'm not exactly sure what to say or how to start a conversation. And I think I hide it quite well. So people don't really notice that I'm maybe suffering from a little bit of social anxiety because I think, yeah, I can hide it. I can camouflage it. But I'm often not very comfortable when I'm meeting new people in, I don't know, a public place, at a party. So I maybe get a bit of Dutch courage, which is courage from drinking alcohol, to feel more relaxed and to feel more at ease when socializing with people I don't necessarily know very well. So, Dutch courage is the courage, the bravery that you get after you've drunk a little bit of alcohol. So, yeah, there you have a confession of mine. Now, how about another one? Number 8. Have you ever insisted on something? Have you ever insisted on something? Well, yes. When I was growing up, I insisted on getting a pet dog, on getting a puppy, because my mum and dad didn't want any dogs. They had already had cats. We had cats growing up. And I don't know why, but I always felt like I was missing out. I felt like without having a dog, my childhood wasn't complete. So I would keep asking my parents and seeing if I could pressure them into getting a puppy. So I'd offer to take the dog out for walks in the morning and after school. And especially when we went on holiday in summer, that's when I'd have a heart to heart with in particular my mum, but also my dad. And I'd tell them, like, come on, please, I'm begging you. All of my friends have got dogs, and all I want to do is, take him out for a walk or take her out for a walk and cuddle him or her and teach him or her and do all of these things because I feel like I'm lonely without having a dog. So I'd pull out all of the cards to try to convince my parents that we needed to get a puppy. So I really insisted on doing this. Over years, I insisted on doing it. And after a while, they caved in, meaning they gave in. They said, okay, go on then. Yes, do a little bit of research, look into what kind of dog you'd like to get, and this year we can get a dog. Fine. So I insisted, and they caved in. Come on! And of course, I was delighted when I got my golden retriever. Her name was Stella. She was amazing. And nowadays, I want to get a dog again. Yes, I live in a flat at the moment, but it's not going to be a permanent situation. I reckon in the next year, for sure, I will have moved out of this apartment. And when I do move out, I'm going to insist on getting a puppy. And I think my fiance sees eye to eye with me. I think she wants to do the same thing. So hopefully within the next year, I'll have a cute little puppy. Oh, and I would like to adopt a puppy rather than buying one. But it's true that from a selfish point of view, I would prefer to get a puppy than an old dog because I want to experience training and bringing up the puppy from the age of 2 months. I'd like to have the complete experience if I'm going to do it. So, yeah, that's what I insisted on, and I'm going to insist on doing it again in the near future. Now, let's keep going. Some more prepositions. These are nice and easy ones, so I'll walk you through them as quick as lightning. So, which preposition is missing? And this time we have some adjectives. So, interested in, good at, responsible for, aware of, capable of, afraid of, satisfied with, similar to. There we go. That was a piece of cake, wasn't it? Now, let me answer some of these questions as well. So, I'll just pick a couple of these. And the first one that I am going to answer is, well, what are you afraid of? What am I scared of? What am I terrified of? Frightened of? Petrified of? Horrified of? And there are a few things. So I'm scared of heights. I'm a little bit afraid of flying when there's a lot of turbulence. I'm quite frightened of some different insects, spiders in particular, but hey, if I lived in a different country, I'd be very afraid of snakes as well. Essentially, big insects or reptiles. And then, well, if we're speaking about philosophy, I'm also afraid of dying. I'm afraid of my family not being there. I'm afraid of what is going to happen in the world, seeing the news every day. So I'm afraid of many things. And that means that I am a scaredy cat. Or another word I've used in the past on the podcast is a wuss. I'm a scaredy cat. I'm a wuss. And I take after my mum, I think. So I have inherited this trait from her. Now, another one. How about the next question is, what are you bad at? Well, first I'd say I'm good at teaching, I hope. I'm good at running. I'm relatively good at learning a language, but I haven't got time. I was quite good at football, but nothing special. And I think I'm quite good at cooking, but I'm no expert. Absolutely not. So those are some things that I'm good at or I'm all right at. And then on the other hand, I'm bad at many things as well. So I'm very bad at maths or science related topics. It just goes over my head. I'm quite bad at, well, I'm bad at continuing with sport. I was always quite bad at racket sports. So I was always very bad at tennis. I was bad at badminton and also quite bad at anything that involved like throwing and catching, which is strange. So I was bad at baseball or softball, cricket as well. I was quite bad at. But then I was always quite good at football and rugby. So, hey, you can't have everything. And, well, what else am I bad at? I think I'm bad at drawing, and I'm definitely bad at singing, and I'm bad at dancing. Oh, the list goes on now. I'm bad at many things. So, yeah, I'm not the most big headed person in the world. I can recognize my strengths, but I can also confess and admit to my weaknesses too. So I'm bad at loads of things. Loads of things. Now, from there, let's have a look at a dialogue, and I'm going to read it out loud. Here, this is a dialogue which is very businessy. It involves lots of business jargon and business collocations. So, we have two people having a chat, Emma and Liam. Are you ready? Perfect. I'll read it out loud. Emma. We need to strike a balance between speed and quality on this project. The client wants everything done quickly, but we can't afford mistakes. Liam. Ugh, I agree. Marketing will play a role in managing expectations, but the team is starting to come under pressure. Emma. That's why we should draw attention to the risks now. If we rush, we might create bigger problems later. Liam. And whatever we decide will set a precedent. If we accept this now, it could happen again in future projects. Emma. Exactly. We also need to take into consideration the team's workload. Some people already have too much to do. Liam. I've noticed that. A few are willing to go to great lengths to meet the deadline, but it's not sustainable. Emma. Right. We need a better system that can pave the way for more realistic planning going forward. Liam. So, what's the plan? Emma. We talk to the client and adjust the timeline. We should also bear in mind that they're under pressure too. Liam. True. If we explain things clearly, they might be flexible. Emma. And internally, we need to support the team. This level of stress can really take a toll over time. Liam. Agreed. Let's fix this before it gets worse. And there we have the dialogue. And I was trying to put on a little bit of maybe a rougher, older man's accent for Liam to be able to see the difference, because I can't really put on an accent of a woman, or at least if I did, I think I'd make a fool of myself. So that's why I changed Liam's voice slightly rather than Emma's voice. So, what did you think of the dialogue? And were you paying attention to any of these advanced collocations? No worries if you weren't, because we're going to go over them now. And the first one was strike a balance. So if you strike a balance, it simply means you find a balance. But this collocation is with the verb strike. Then we have play a role, which I think is nice and simple. Marketing will play a role, meaning they will, have a role. They will participate. Then we have come under pressure. And of course, you can be under pressure or you can come under pressure if you start to feel the pressure. Next, we have draw attention to. And people who make a scene tend to draw attention to themselves, to attract attention. After that, it is set a precedent. And if you set a precedent, well, you do something once in a good way, or often a bad way, and then it becomes more normal or more acceptable for others to do the same thing in the future. You've set a precedent. Next is take into consideration. If you take something into consideration, well, you consider it. Simple. Then we have go to great lengths. And if you go to great lengths, well, you go the extra mile. You go above and beyond. You do more than necessary, or you try really hard to do something. You go to great lengths to accomplish your targets. Next one is pave the way. And if you pave the way, you are, well, providing a platform or creating a path for other people to follow your lead. It's quite similar to set a precedent. So imagine you have an old path which is just with some gravel or some rocks, but then you have some heavy machinery that is going to put concrete and tarmac and different different liquids, different materials to provide a good infrastructure. Then they are paving the way. They are creating a path which is easier to follow, to pave the way. And then the penultimate one is bear in mind. Bear in mind, I use this quite a lot, is like take into account or remember. You should bear in mind that when I do these podcasts, I'm making it up as I go along. So I am doing everything as if it were a live class, more or less. Bear that in mind. And lastly, it is take a toll or take its toll. So last week when I was in Seville, when I went for the fair, I didn't sleep a lot. I ate lots of fried food and I drank a lot of beer. So all of this unhealthy period took a toll on me. It made me so tired at the weekend because it really took a toll on me. It had a negative consequence on me. It took a toll. Perfect. So that is a little bit of a recap of these advanced collocations. Now, I won't continue with the gap fill or the recap. This is what I did with my students in group classes this week. As always, if you'd like to join my lessons, then there is a link in the description, and you can also download my application and try it completely for free. Huh, amazing, right? And I think we can call it a day there, because I've been speaking now for about 45 minutes. And that's usually the amount of time that I try to aim for and stick to when recording this podcast. I think 40, 45 minutes is the sweet spot. the sweet spot, meaning the right amount or the right time. It is just right. But yeah, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, let me know what the weather is like where you are. Let me know where you're from and where you live. Because it's always interesting to find out more about the people who listen to me rambling on for hours on end every single week. So, thank you everybody. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.